I am 108 years old, and I have buried almost all the doctors I knew in my youth. They died young, they died tired, they died without understanding what they had spent their whole lives trying to teach others. My name is Arthur Chen. I was born in a small village in northern China, in a year when almost no one kept track of the years. I grew up surrounded by mountains, wild herbs, and old folks who rose before the dawn and went to sleep the second the sun dipped below the horizon. My grandfather was the village doctor. He didn't have a medical degree, he didn't wear a white coat, and he sure didn't have a fancy clinic. What he had were his hands, his ears, an endless well of patience, and one phrase he would repeat every single time someone came to him hurting. The one who comes looking for me has already arrived too late. I didn't understand what that meant until I hit 60. Now, at 108, I understand it perfectly every time I see one of my grandkids, with a glowing screen glued to their face, eating on the run, running on 4 hours of sleep, and lying to themselves that they are doing just fine. Today, I am going to sit down with you and tell you 15 things. 15 truths that traditional Chinese medicine has been trying to teach us for over 4,000 years. 15 things my grandparents knew in their bones without ever cracking open a textbook. 15 habits that, if I had just applied them in my 40s, would have saved me a whole lot of agony. But before we get to the list, let me tell you how I ended up here. Because you don't learn how to live by reading about it. You learn by living it, and sometimes, you learn by losing. By the time I was 32, I was a wealthy man, at least by the standards of where I came from. I ran a busy clinic down south. I treated merchants, city officials, the kind of people who thought they owned the world. I charged top dollar, ate rich food, and barely slept. Then one day, on a completely ordinary morning, I woke up and couldn't move my left hand. I was 32 years old. Let that sink in. 32, my own body slammed the brakes on me. Me the doctor, me the guy who could read everyone else's pulse like a book. I was the one prescribing remedies to the broken people walking through my door, yet I couldn't even read my own warning signs. So, completely lost and terrified, I packed up, left the city, and went back to my grandfather's village. He had already passed away, but my grandmother was still there. She was 94, walked without a cane, and slept like a baby. When she saw me standing on her porch with my arm hanging dead at my side, she didn't even flinch. She just looked at me with those sharp, narrow eyes of hers and said, "Son, you came here to be healed. You are late, but you made it. Let's start from the very beginning." That was the start of my second life. There I was, a fully trained doctor, relearning everything from a woman who couldn't even read. What I absorbed over those 6 months in that little dirt floor house with no phone, no clock, and absolutely nothing to do but breathe and watch the world go by, was worth more than every medical textbook I ever memorized. My hand woke up. My pulse found its rhythm again. My sleep actually became sleep. For the first time, I understood what my grandfather meant when he talked about the age of the sky. He was talking about the 120 years the human body is designed to last, if you just get out of its way and let it live. I haven't hit 120 yet, but I am at 108. I still dress myself, I still cook my own meals, and with decent lighting, I still read without glasses. I am going to tell you exactly how I do it. I am going to give you those 15 rules. Listen closely, because you aren't going to like all of them. Some will sound way too simple, others might strike you as pure nonsense. But pay attention, because the ones you fight against the hardest are exactly the ones you need the most. The first piece of advice is the toughest pill to swallow. Stop eating after the sun goes down. In Chinese medicine, this is the golden rule. It is the foundation, the one boundary you do not cross. Your body was built to process food while the sun is high and to shut down when the sky goes dark. If you are walking through your front door at 9 at night, sitting down to a heavy plate of food, grabbing dessert, pouring a glass of wine, and hitting the mattress 2 hours later, your body isn't resting at all. Your system is pulling the night shift, working overtime while you sleep. Then you wake up feeling more exhausted than when your head hit the pillow, and you have no idea why. For years, I ate dinner at 10 o'clock at night, and my body was riddled with random, unexplained aches. The moment I stopped doing that, the moment I started having my last meal before sunset, those aches just vanished. No pills, no magic cures, they just faded away. If you can't pull that off every single day, aim for as many days as you can. And on the nights you absolutely have to eat late, keep it incredibly light. Your body will pay you back with extra years on your life. The second piece of advice, never, under any circumstances, drink anything cold with your meals. Now I know this sounds like absolute crazy talk to most folks in the States. You walk into a diner here and ask for a mug of hot water, they will look at you like you have got two heads. But think about it this way. When you are scrubbing a greasy cast iron skillet, do you run it under freezing water or hot water? Hot, obviously. The exact same thing happens in your gut. If you are eating a heavy steak, some fried fish, or anything cooked in oil, and you wash it down with an ice-cold beer or a freezing soda, all that fat instantly turns solid. Your body then has to burn massive amounts of energy just to heat up the liquid you swallowed before it can even start breaking down the food. You get bloated, you feel sluggish, and over the years, that turns into stubborn fat you can't seem to shake. I drink warm water, hot tea, or bone broth. Even in the dead of summer, the coldest thing I will drink is room temperature water. Absolutely zero ice, ever. I am 108 years old, and my digestion runs like a 20-year-old's. The third piece of advice: wake up with the sunrise and be in bed before 11 at night. The moment we invented the light bulb, modern sickness was born. I will say it, flat out. Before artificial light, folks went to sleep when it got dark. They slept, they dreamed, and they actually recovered. Today, people are crawling into bed at 1, 2, or 3 in the morning, staring dead-eyed into a glowing screen that is blasting blue light right into their retinas. That harsh light shoots straight through your eyes and hijacks your brain. Just when your nervous system is trying to power down, you are tricking it into thinking it is high noon. It is like shining a flashlight inside your skull and expecting to drift off. It doesn't work. My advice is brutally simple. At 10 o'clock, turn off the overhead lights, switch on one small, warm, dim lamp. By 11, you need to be under the covers. At 1:08, I go to bed at 9:30 sharp, and I am up at 5:30 in the morning. I don't even know what the word insomnia means. The fourth piece of advice: go for a walk after every single meal. Don't jog. Don't hit the gym. Just take a slow, deliberate walk. 100 paces at the bare minimum, but 1,000 is better. There is an old saying in Chinese medicine: take 100 steps after you eat, and you'll live to see 99. When you eat, all your blood rushes to your stomach to handle the digestion process. If you instantly crash on the couch, that blood pools and stagnates, leaving the food to just sit there and ferment. If you get up and walk, the blood circulates, the food moves down the line, and your body operates exactly as it was designed to. My late wife lived to be 91, and not once in her entire life did she finish a meal and stay in her chair. She would stand up, clear the plates, wander out to the backyard, talk to the chickens, or just tidy up the porch. She kept herself in gentle motion after every meal. I learned more watching her than I ever did studying anatomy. The fifth piece of advice, and you need to listen to this one with an open mind, is to scale back your desires. In the oldest known text on Chinese medicine, the Yellow Emperor asks his chief advisor for the ultimate secret to avoiding illness. The advisor looks at him and answers with just a few words: a clear heart and few desires. That is it. 4 millennia of medical wisdom distilled into one sentence. And it is the most profound truth I have ever heard. The human body is purely physical. It has hard limits. It is built of cells, fragile bones, and failing flesh. But human desire? Desire is a bottomless pit. Desire expands like the universe. It never stops growing. If you let your hunger for things outgrow what your physical frame can handle, your body will snap. You want a bigger bank account, a larger house, more status, more vacations, more romance, just more of everything. And your poor, exhausted body is dragging behind you like a broken-down horse trying to keep pace with a freight train. When you finally learn to want less, when you learn to actually appreciate the ground you are standing on, your nervous system settles, your heart stops racing, you live longer. I learned this way too late. I learned it the hard way when I buried my eldest son. His name was Bobby. He was a doctor, just like me. He went to a top-tier medical school, had the whole world in front of him. He was exactly 49 years old when his heart gave out. 49. Less than half the age I am right now. And as we lowered him into the ground on a bitter winter morning, his wife turned to me and whispered something that haunts me to this day. She looked right through me and said, "Dad, your son didn't die from a medical condition. He died from wanting too much." I didn't say a word back, but that night, sitting in the dark across from a framed photo of my late wife, I broke down and sobbed like a little boy. I cried because it hit me, like a punch to the gut, that my boy had inherited the absolute worst part of me. The hunger, that relentless hunger to be a big shot, the need to constantly prove himself, the obsession with never slowing down. And out of pure, stubborn pride, I never once taught him how to hit the brakes. I taught him how to grind, how to hustle, but I never taught him how to actually live. If you are listening to my voice right now, and you have got kids or grandkids, and you see them sprinting through life the way my boy did, stop them. Grab them by the shoulders and tell them something real. Tell them they don't need to accumulate so damn much. Tell them that life is right here. It is sitting quietly in the morning sun, eating a hot bowl of soup, taking a slow walk around the block. That is the whole show. Everything else is just static. The sixth piece of advice is incredibly practical. Learn how to locate the Hegu point. It is an acupressure spot on your hand, right in that meaty web of muscle between your thumb and your index finger when you squeeze them together. In our practice, we call that spot the natural aspirin because it shuts down a massive amount of pain. Got a migraine? Press your thumb hard into that spot for 60 seconds. Menstrual cramps? Press it. Jaw tension, lower back pain, a brutal toothache? Dig right into it. You have to press deep, angling in toward the bone, until you feel a dull, heavy ache. Some people call it a good pain. Once you hit that sensation, you have found the switch. I use it every single day. If I am wiped out, if my joints are barking at me, or if my nerves are frayed, I press that spot and it works. It is not magic. It is a direct neurological trigger that forces your brain to send out a massive wave of calm. Try it tonight. Hell, try it right now while I am talking. It is completely free. You carry it around with you 24/7. The seventh piece of advice: learn how to breathe. I know that sounds ridiculous. We all breathe, right? But the ugly truth is, once most people hit 40, they forget how. They take shallow little gasps. They breathe through their mouths. They heave their shoulders up and down instead of expanding their bellies. And over a few decades, that shallow breathing will literally make you sick. Tomorrow morning, before you grab your phone, before you pour that first cup of coffee, before you do anything, sit up on the edge of your bed, shut your eyes, and take 20 real breaths. But do it slow. Pull the air in through your nose, letting your stomach inflate like a balloon. Hold it right there for 2 full seconds. Then let it hiss out through your mouth. Exhale slow until there is absolutely nothing left in the tank. 20 deep pulls. It takes exactly 3 minutes out of your day, and I promise you will feel a shift within a week. You are flooding your blood with oxygen, slamming the brakes on your fight or flight response, and wiping the fog right out of your brain. I have done this ritual every morning since I was 40. That is nearly 7 decades of breathing with purpose. And I can look you in the eye and say that one tiny habit has added more years to my life than any exotic root or herb ever could. The 8th piece of advice is going to sting. Cut the sugar. Drop the white carbs, the processed bread, the pastries, the sodas, the candy, the cookies. All that garbage they push on you at every corner store, every checkout aisle, and every office birthday party. In our medical philosophy, the sweet flavor is tied directly to dampness. It creates stagnation. It builds up heavy, toxic sludge in your system. Every time you pop something sweet into your mouth, your body is just going to scream for another hit an hour later. It is a beautifully designed trap. Your insulin spikes, it crashes, and your brain begs for another fix. Keep that cycle going for a few decades, and your entire body turns sluggish, heavy, and chronically inflamed. I am not saying you have to live like a monk and never touch dessert again. On holidays, I will have a small slice of something nice. But it is not an everyday thing. It is an exception, not a routine. Fresh fruit is plenty. Fruit is the exact level of sweetness the earth designed your body to handle. The closer your food is to the dirt it grew in, the healthier you are going to be. The more it comes wrapped in plastic from a factory, the faster the clock ticks down. The 9th piece of advice: work with your hands every single day. I don't care what it is. Chop vegetables, sew a patch on a jacket, water a garden, fix a broken hinge, write a letter with a pen, knead some dough. Just use your hands. We believe that your hands are hardwired to every major organ in your body, invisible pathways called meridians. When your hands are active, your life force is circulating. When your hands go idle, everything inside you starts to rust. I know folks in their 60s who can't even peel an apple with a knife anymore. They don't know how to sew on a stray button, and their handwriting looks like chicken scratch because they only ever type on glass screens. Then they look at me and complain about feeling old. Of course they feel old. Your hands are the youth of your body. Keep them moving, and you keep the engine inside you young. The 10th piece of advice: throw your windows wide open every morning. I don't care if there is snow on the ground, if it is dead of summer humid, or if it is pouring rain. Give it 10 minutes. Let the raw air outside rush in and flush out the stale, stagnant air trapped inside. Folks who live locked up in sealed houses, blasting the furnace all winter and cranking the AC all summer, are breathing recycled dead air. Your lungs crave living air. Air with movement. Air carrying the charge of the outside world. Back in the farming town where I grew up, the houses didn't even have windows that sealed completely shut. There was always a draft, always a breeze rolling through, and people lived to see a very old age. Here, in these modern concrete grids, people seal themselves in vaults like they are protecting precious jewels, and they come down with weird, modern sicknesses that didn't even exist a century ago. Fresh air is medicine, and nobody is charging you a dime for it. The 11th piece of advice: never, ever argue while you are eating. You might think this is just old school etiquette, but hear me out. When you sit down to a meal with your chest tight, fuming with anger, bickering with your spouse, yelling at your kids, or replaying a fight with your boss in your head, your stomach clamps shut like a steel trap. The blood needed to digest your food gets pulled to your muscles because your primitive brain thinks you are under attack. So the food just sits there. It doesn't break down. It just ferments and rots right in the middle of your gut. When you pull up a chair to eat, leave the drama at the door. If you are dining alone, eat in absolute silence or put on something soft in the background. If you are eating with your family, keep the conversation light and easy. The dinner table has to be a sanctuary, not a battlefield. My wife and I were married for 57 years, and we had a strict, unbreakable pact. If there was friction, if something needed hashing out, we dealt with it before the plates hit the table or after the dishes were washed. Never during the meal, not once. And I firmly believe that is exactly why we stayed so healthy together for so long. The 12th piece of advice: guard your feet and the back of your neck. In traditional practice, cold invades the body through two main open doors: the soles of your feet and the base of your skull. If you walk around letting your feet freeze on cold floors, your entire system gets compromised. If you let an icy draft constantly hit the back of your neck, you are going to get sick. Every single night, before I crawl into bed, even now at 108 years old, I soak my feet for 10 minutes in a basin of hot water. I draw it as hot as I can physically stand, throw in a pinch of salt or steep some ginger root in it. That heat travels straight up to my kidneys, warms my blood, and knocks me out like a heavy sedative. And whenever I step out the front door, even if there is just a slight chill in the air, I wrap something around my neck, a light scarf, a bandana, a popped collar, anything. It is a tiny little habit that has kept me out of the doctor's office for decades. Protect your feet. Protect your neck. Your immune system will reward you with years of unbroken health. Advice number 13. Start your day with a clean, positive emotion. The exact emotional state you wake up in sets the concrete for the rest of your day. If your eyes snap open and your first move is to grab your phone and doom scroll the morning news, you have already lost. You just injected anxiety, dread, and a massive wall of noise straight into your brain before your feet even hit the rug. In our medicine, dark, uncontrolled emotions are literally referred to as the 7 injuries. Rage damages the liver. Paralyzing fear attacks the kidneys. Deep grief weakens the lungs. Chronic worry wrecks the spleen. Even manic, chaotic excitement throws the heart completely out of rhythm. That is why we strive for a dead center balance the moment we wake up. When you open your eyes tomorrow, before you make a single move, just say thank you. I don't care who you direct it to. To the universe, to God, to the sunrise outside the glass, to a mother who passed on years ago. Pick whoever you want, but show some damn gratitude that you got to wake up for one more round. I have done that every single morning for 70 years, and I can promise you there is no prescription drug on earth that works better. Pure gratitude heals deep, physical damage that modern chemistry can't even touch. Advice number 14, and this is the one that took me the longest, most painful time to figure out. You have to forgive. You have to drop the grudges, wipe the ledgers clean, and release the people who hurt you, whether they are dead and gone, or still breathing and never going to change. I spent 20 brutal years nursing a vicious grudge against my younger brother. 2 decades. We didn't exchange a word. We didn't see each other's faces. Then one afternoon, when he was 64, the phone rang. They told me his heart just gave out. He died. And we never bridged that gap. And that night, once again, I wept like a helpless kid. I cried because it dawned on me that for 20 years, I had been carrying around a heavy, toxic box that didn't even belong to anyone anymore. My brother was in the ground, and my bitterness was just sitting there, locked inside my own chest, eating me alive. Holding on to a grudge is like swallowing rat poison and waiting for the other guy to drop dead. If you have got bad blood with someone, pick up the phone and fix it. If it is broken beyond repair, drop it and walk away. But do not carry it. The sheer weight of resentment will grind down your immune system faster than any virus. Sometimes resentment is the disease itself. And advice number 15, the last one, and the anchor that holds all the rest together. Live in rhythm with the natural world. Traditional Chinese medicine, with all its pressure points, its complex herbal formulas, its ancient diagnostic tools, and its 4,000 years of documented history, boils down to one singular truth. We are not separate from nature. We don't own it. We aren't the kings of the mountain. We are just another moving part in the engine, no different from the oak tree, the rushing river, the white-tailed deer, or the honeybee. Whenever we try to fight against the hard laws of the natural world, we end up sick and broken. When we ride the current instead of fighting it, we thrive. What does it actually mean to live in harmony with nature? It means incredibly basic things. It means eating the food that grows in your own zip code during the season it was actually meant to grow. It means shutting your eyes when it gets dark and grinding when the sun is up. It means moving your body the way wild animals do, never in a frantic rush but always in quiet, steady motion. It means pulling raw air into your lungs, walking barefoot in the dirt whenever you get the chance, staring up at the open sky for at least 5 minutes a day. Hell, talk to the trees if nobody is around to hear you. Nature doesn't make us sick. We make ourselves sick the second we build a wall between us and the dirt. The brilliant news is, the door is always wide open for you to walk back through. Those are the 15 rules, my friend. 15 brutally simple truths. 15 habits that won't cost you a single red cent. 15 remedies that don't require a pharmacy slip. 15 facts of life that my grandparents knew, that their grandparents knew, and that human DNA has understood for millennia, even if our modern, overclocked brains are hellbent on ignoring them. Sitting here at 108, I am going to leave you with one final thought. It is not on the list, but it is the bedrock underneath all of it. Life isn't measured in length. It is not about being long or short. It is about being deep or shallow. I have shaken hands with men who managed to drag themselves to 90 without truly living a single goddamn day. And I have seen little kids taken at 7 years old who crammed a whole brilliant lifetime into those few short years. The score isn't kept by the number of candles on your cake. The score is kept by how much weight you put into every single day. If you wake up in a frantic rush, shove food down your throat in a rush, hustle through your job in a rush, talk to your family in a rush, and crash into bed in a rush, you aren't living. You are just sprinting toward the finish line. And trust me, the finish line isn't going anywhere. You don't need to sprint to get there. Look, I have had a lot ripped away from me over these 108 years. I buried the love of my life. I buried my own son. I watched almost every kid I grew up with get put into the earth. I stood by and watched my entire generation fade into ghosts. And sometimes, when I am sitting alone on the back porch, staring at the oak tree my grandfather planted when I was just a boy, a dark thought creeps in. I start thinking maybe I have overstayed my welcome. I start wondering if the universe just lost my paperwork. But then, my 30-year-old granddaughter will walk through the screen door, pull up a chair next to mine, spill her heart out about her life, and ask me what she should do. In that exact moment, it hits me why my heart is still beating. I am still here to pass down the map. I am still breathing, so you don't have to suffer the exact same losses I did just to figure out the rules of the game. If you have stuck around and listened to me this long, let me ask one small favor of you, just one. Do not wake up tomorrow and try to overhaul your life with all 15 rules at once. Don't do it. Pick just one. Pick the one that hit a nerve. Pick the one that made you roll your eyes, the one that made you think, yeah, that's not for me. That specific one, that is your assignment. Try it for 7 days. Just 1 week, and watch what happens. Your physical shell is infinitely smarter than your conscious brain. It has been waiting years for you to finally pay attention. All it needs is a tiny crack of light, a small signal, to start repairing the damage. My clock is winding down. I know it. I can feel the cold settling deep into my joints, but I am not afraid. Our old texts teach us that the grave isn't a dead end. It is just the end of this particular stretch of highway, and God knows I have put the miles in. I have walked the road in sturdy boots, and I have walked it barefoot on jagged rocks. I have marched surrounded by people I loved, and I have trudged along in pure, crushing isolation. I have walked singing at the top of my lungs, and I have walked choking on my own tears, but I kept walking. That is the only thing that matters. Whoever you are listening to this, I don't know your age. I don't know where it hurts. I don't know what the world has stolen from you, but I know one absolute truth. You are alive. I know that right this second, as my voice hits your ears, your heart is hammering in your chest, your blood is racing through your veins, and your lungs are pulling in air. That alone is a miracle. And as long as that engine is running, there is still time on the clock. You still have time to change the fuel you put in your mouth, the way you see sleep, the way you love, the way you forgive, and the way you breathe. At its absolute core, traditional Chinese medicine isn't really a medical system at all. It is a lens through which to view existence. And the view is this: tend to your own body the way you would tend to a wild garden. Treat it with endless patience, quiet respect, and zero rush. Understand that everything blooms on its own schedule, and time will always yield a harvest if you just treat the soil right. My name is Arthur Chen. I am 108 years old. And the unspoken rule, the one I saved for right before I sign off, is this: don't wait until the doctor gives you a terrifying diagnosis to finally start living. Don't wait until someone is lowered into the dirt to finally show them love. Don't wait until the sun is already sinking below the tree line to finally stop and look at it. Start right now, today, this very afternoon. Go pour yourself a glass of warm water, walk 100 steps, pick up the phone and dial the number of the person you haven't spoken to in years. Power down that screen a full hour before you close your eyes. Look up and say thank you just for the privilege of breathing. That is the oldest prescription on the planet, and it is the only one with a perfect success rate. I hope my voice cuts through the noise and reaches you, the exact same way my grandfather's voice reached me nearly a century ago. I hope this wisdom buys you decades, and when it is your turn to be 108, I hope you find yourself sitting on a quiet porch somewhere, staring at a sturdy tree, fully realizing that the point was never how much you managed to hoard, but how beautifully you lived with the little you actually needed. Take care of yourself, kid. Guard your life fiercely. It is a beautifully long ride if you learn how to navigate it, and a brutally short one if you throw it away. As long as there is a pulse beating against your ribs, you have still got time to begin. Before we immerse ourselves in the profound wisdom left behind by a century of living, it is essential to emphasize a crucial declaration. This story and the insights drawn from it are created strictly for educational purposes. They are not a replacement for professional medical guidance, but rather an invitation to re-examine the structural choices of our daily lives through a deeply humanistic lens. When we listen to the voice of an elder who has lived to see 108 years, we are not just receiving health tips. We are listening to a blueprint for reclaiming our humanity in a world that constantly demands we sacrifice our peace for the sake of the hustle. The core philosophy of this narrative centers on an ironic truth that many of us face today. We spend our youth exhausting our health to achieve wealth, only to spend our wealth later trying to buy back our health. The elder's realization that his own grandfather considered a sick patient to have arrived too late underscores a massive shift in how we ought to view wellness. It is not an emergency room fix, but a daily sacred alignment with the natural order. By examining simple adjustments like ceasing to eat after the sun dips below the horizon or refusing ice-cold drinks during a heavy meal, we uncover a deeper respect for our biological design. These practices are fundamentally humanistic because they urge us to stop treating our bodies like unfeeling machines and start treating them like living gardens. When we walk 1,000 paces after dinner or wrap a scarf around our necks to guard against the chill, we are participating in an act of mindful self-preservation that allows us to show up more fully for the people we love. The emotional weight of the story reaches its pinnacle through the devastating loss of a son who died from wanting too much. This heartbreaking revelation forces us to look in the mirror and question the toxic nature of modern ambitions. We are relentlessly encouraged to grind, to accumulate, and to sprint through our days. Yet this story serves as a vanguard warning that a bottomless pit of desire will inevitably break the physical frame trying to carry it. The wisdom of scaling back our desires is perhaps the most difficult pill to swallow in a consumer-driven culture, but it is the ultimate key to settling an overactive nervous system. When we couple this emotional deceleration with physical practices like deep, intentional belly breathing and utilizing natural acupressure points for pain relief, we take back the remote control of our health. Even the simple act of throwing our windows wide open to let the raw, living air flush out our stagnant spaces becomes a metaphor for clearing out the mental clutter that keeps us trapped in modern anxieties. A personal perspective on human value. When we look closely at the architecture of modern life, it becomes painfully clear that we have traded our intrinsic peace for an endless cycle of digital noise and frantic accumulation. We race against a clock of our own invention, forgetting that the heart requires a slower rhythm to truly connect with the world around it. True wealth does not reside in a bloated bank account or an exhausting climb up a corporate ladder, but in the quiet capacity to appreciate a warm cup of water and a slow walk beneath the morning sun. It breaks my heart to see so many brilliant souls burning themselves out at both ends, driven by a phantom need to constantly prove their worth to a world that rarely pauses to care. We must learn to view our bodies not as machines to be ruthlessly exploited, but as sacred gardens requiring tender cultivation, deep breaths, and gentle boundaries. The tragedy of losing those we love, before we have the chance to forgive them, reminds us that pride is a remarkably heavy, toxic burden to carry into tomorrow. Every grudge we hold is a slow-acting poison we willingly swallow, mistakenly believing it punishes someone else, while it quietly erodes our own vitality. I believe our modern sickness stems from a profound disconnection from the dirt beneath our feet and the natural shifts of light in the sky. By choosing to unplug from the glowing screens that hijack our sleep, we reclaim our dreams and give our nervous systems permission to heal. Kindness to oneself is the ultimate foundation of humanism, because a person who is constantly running on empty has nothing left to offer a hurting neighbor. Let us stop treating life as a frantic sprint toward a distant finish line and instead recognize that the present moment is the entire show. We do not need to hoard endless material possessions to justify our existence on this earth. Your pulse is a miracle, an active melody playing in real time, demanding that you honor its cadence with patience and respect. By embracing fewer desires and fostering deeper gratitude, we clear the internal static and finally learn how to listen to the people sitting right across from us. Ultimately, the true measure of a beautiful life lies not in how long we manage to survive, but in how deeply we dare to live, love, and let go. As we let these timeless principles settle into our awareness, the final invitation is beautifully simple. Do not try to overhaul everything overnight, but choose just one area where you can extend grace to yourself. True wellness is an ongoing conversation with the soil beneath us, the air around us, and the people beside us. By drinking that warm glass of water, turning off the glowing screens an hour early, and stepping outside to look at the sky, we honor the miracle of the pulse beating against our ribs. Let us choose to live deeply rather than shallowly, ensuring that our days are measured not by the speed of our hustle, but by the depth of our peace and the warmth of our connections. Disclaimer: the content provided in this commentary is for educational, informational, and motivational purposes only and should not be construed as professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health providers with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or lifestyle change. Reliance on any information provided within this text is solely at your own risk.